Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Anaru Double Day tēnei. Today we're looking at the Gospel reading for Sunday the 24th of October. It's a very well known story, the story of blind Bartimaeus. And we're picking up the narrative in Mark chapter 10 verses 46 through to 52. They came to Jericho. As Jesus and his disciples and a large crowd were leaving Jericho, Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, a blind beggar, was sitting by the roadside. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout out and say, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." Many sternly ordered him to be quiet, but he cried out even more loudly, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stood still and said, "Call him here." And they called the blind man, saying to him, "Take heart, get up, he's calling you." So, throwing off his cloak, he sprang up and came to Jesus. Then Jesus said to him, "What do you want me to do for you?" The blind man said to him, "My teacher, let me see again." Jesus said to him, "Go, your faith has made you well." Immediately he regained his sight and followed him on the way. So let's set the scene, shall we? We have this picture of Jesus on his last journey to Jerusalem. He's going up there, he knows what awaits him. He's right down by the Dead Sea. The crowd accompanying him and his disciples has continued to grow as he's been coming south. As he comes out of Jericho, the crowd has swelled even more. And as he comes out the gate, there's a large throng of people squeezing through, and there's all this hubbub of noise as they're preparing to take the road to Jerusalem. There's a blind beggar. I know, because that's all he could do. He'd have been sitting by the wall, and maybe with a couple of others. He heard the noise. He asks and says, "What's going on?" Jesus of Nazareth is passing by. Immediately he sees that this is one opportunity, and he starts to cry out, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." You can imagine it. The people all around him are embarrassed and say, "Shut up, he doesn't want to talk to someone like you." But he shouts all the louder, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." And above the noise of the crowd, Jesus hears this plaintive cry, and he stops and he turns and he calls the man to him. What was his name? We see it was Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus. But that's a bit like describing me as son of Daniel, son of Daniel. I am Andrew, son of Daniel. Bartimaeus could have been his name, but it may be that he was just simply known as the son of Timaeus, because that's what Bar means, the son of Timaeus. And maybe because he was blind, and blindness, particularly from birth, was often regarded as a punishment from God, he didn't kind of deserve to be known as an individual with his own name. He's disempowered. He was a nobody. He wasn't fully human. Now, we're unclear as to whether he was blind from birth or not. If you were paying attention to the NRSV, which I read from, it said, "I want to see again." And it says that he regained his sight. But it seems that the Greek is somewhat ambiguous. I'm not a scholar, so I can't argue the case either way. But I notice in other translations, it's, "I want to receive my sight." And he received his sight. So maybe the ambiguity is intentional. So we have the sense that here he is. And it may have been that he's been like this all his life. And it may not. There's a strength in both ways of understanding, I was going to say seeing, both ways of understanding this. So here he is. He's calling out. the one who has perhaps no name or is not named. And he calls out to one who has. He calls out, the son of Bartimaeus calls out to the son of David. The son of David in Hebrew thought was really a euphemism for the Messiah, for the one who was going to redeem Israel. He knows who he is. He calls him by name, but he gives him a title. The son of Bartimaeus, the nobody, calls out to the son of David, the greatest. And he calls him Jesus first. Jesus, the one who actually has a name, the son of David. And he calls to him knowing this is his only shot. This is maybe in his whole life his only shot. And he's going for it. He's going for it. Doesn't matter what all the people around him think. If this is his one opportunity, he is going to seize it with both hands. So he cries all the louder. And ironically, the effect of the people trying to shut him down just eggs him on to be even more vocal so that he gets heard. He gets heard. I'm interested in what happens next. Can you still picture the scene? We have this man who's at the wall there. He's clearly sitting, because it said that when Jesus called him, those around him says, "Cheer up, on your feet, he's calling you." And he leaps to his feet and he throws aside his cloak. Now this is an act of faith if ever there was one. There's a huge crowd there. He's blind. Now if he doesn't get healed, he's never going to find it again. Somebody's probably gone off with it. But he throws it aside. And it may be his biggest cloak. It's a sign that he's ready to leave his old life behind him. And he heads off, guided by others, in the direction of Jesus. Interesting, eh? Now, you can imagine Jesus just looking as this man's coming towards him. It's obvious that the man is blind. Obvious. And he stands and comes and is placed in front of Jesus. And what does Jesus say to him? He actually asks him a question. He says, "What do you want me to do for you?" And you're kind of thinking, duh. He wants to see. Surely. But Jesus doesn't assume anything. That's the first thing. He doesn't assume anything. This man may be having trouble with his mother-in-law and he wants some marriage counseling. Oh, who knows what it is? But he doesn't assume anything. And the second part of this is that he invites this man to name for himself. This man has to think for himself. What is it he really wants? What is it he really wants? And then to be able to claim it. Because if he's been blind all his life, or most of his life, he's unlikely to have trained and had a trade. It means that he spent a large part of his life sitting against this wall begging. It's the only way he has of making a living. But if he gets his sight, that changes everything for him. It's a wonderful gift, yes, but it brings with it a measure of obligation and responsibilities. Because he's no longer going to be able to sit at the wall and beg. Because people will see him as a malingerer. He has to work. And he may have no trade. He may starve in the meantime. This is a risk. And so Jesus asks him the question, what is it you want me to do for you? And it's almost as if he says, I want you to think carefully about this, to be really clear about what it is. We don't know how long Bartimaeus took, the blind man took, to give the answer. But he says, my teacher, let me see. I want to see. Or I want to see again, depending on which translation you use. And so he claims his healing. He's always been clear about it. If he gets the opportunity, it's seeing that he wants. And what does Jesus do? He says, go, your faith has made you well. And does he go? No, he comes. It says he regains his sight and immediately regains his sight and follows Jesus on the way. He has nothing. He may not even go back to get his cloak. He's stepping into a new life, which has potentially a whole huge amount of attendant risk. But it's a new life. He's ready to walk completely away from his old one and a new one that's leading up the road to Jerusalem to a very torrid couple of weeks ahead. He doesn't know any of that. He's stepping out into an uncertain future. But what he knows is that uncertain future has got to be better than the limited, small, diminished inhuman past that he's been leading. And he's willing to run the risk. He's willing to run the risk. He's willing to trust this one who has given him his sight back. He's willing to trust him with his future. He's willing to step out into the unknown, to take almost a leap of faith, because he's not alone. He's going with this one who gave him his sight back. The invitation is there for all of us. So often it is the comfortable, it is safe, it is the known which keeps us bound. And Jesus invites us into this place of new freedom, just as he's invited the one known as Bartimaeus into the adventure of his lifetime. I hope that's helpful. God bless you.